100 years ago, a giant meteor crashed into the continent. The impact of the fall was enormous. Not only that, but the meteor carried eggs that spread everywhere. These eggs turned out to be a horde of insects, which upon hatching waged an intense battle against humanity. Humankind could not resist for long and even lost a large portion of its territories to the enemy. A few years later, humans managed to awaken the power to create spiritual contracts, which were different for men and women. Women would awaken their spirit when they reached adulthood, while men would awaken theirs, only after forming a contract with the Master of Contracts. In this way, humanity was able to fight back and preserve the small part of the world that still remained under its control. 100 years after the catastrophe occurred at King Tang Academy, one of the students named Gulen attempts to conjure a weapon with her powers. She successfully summons a rank C sword. However, she is frustrated because she wanted something more powerful. This is the annual awakening ceremony. People do not know what they will awaken until their talent is revealed. Next in line is the student, Shia. She touches the magic stone and spiritual power manifests, flowing through her body, bringing forth a spear. Her teacher is astonished to see that she has awakened a rank S weapon, and an extremely powerful one. Even the other students are surprised, as it is not common for someone to awaken something as powerful as she did. Some of the boys even praise her beauty in addition to her abilities, but one of them comments that she already has a boyfriend. Speaking of which, as soon as Shia approaches, she breaks up with her boyfriend, claiming that now that she has awakened a rank S weapon, it will not get far unless they are in the same class. She also tells him not to look for her anymore. With that, everyone laughs at the boy. He is Han John, the protagonist. In his thoughts, he wonders if this girl really thinks he is still the same Crover as before. In the past, he was extremely obedient to her and did everything she wanted, but his feelings were never truly reciprocated. His girlfriend took advantage of him whenever she could, constantly bossing him around, and as a foolishly infatuated lover, Han obeyed her blindly. But now, he has realized the truth and knows that in the era of spiritual contracts, strength is everything. He no longer wants to be a mere follower, while the others laugh at him for being dumped. Han calls them nothing more than a bunch of sycophants and asks if they are not worried that he might awaken an S-rank talent or even something superior. His ex-girlfriend scoffs, saying that S-rank spiritual contract talents are extremely rare, and asks if he really thinks he is worthy of such a thing. Right after that, it is his turn. Han touches the magic stone. However, he feels that it is not responding. Shia mockingly states that, as expected of someone like him, not only is he not a rank S, but no power has even manifested, making everyone present burst into laughter. But then an intense light radiates from the protagonist as the stone finally manifests its power through him. Seeing this overwhelming surge of energy, they are left speechless, only imagining what will emerge from the stone. An SS rank contract appears for the protagonist, something never seen before. Shia had no idea such a thing was even possible, as in 100 years, no one had ever awakened with such power. Everyone else is just as shocked, claiming that this must be a mistake, because otherwise the protagonist would become the strongest human alive. On the other hand, the girls are already setting their sights on him, wanting to take advantage of the situation by offering themselves to be his girlfriends. Each one of them uses their charms to try to get his attention. However, the protagonist is not interested and rejects them all, as he has no desire for the attention of such superficial people. What Han wants now is to know what kind of equipment will emerge from his power. His system alerts him about his attributes. Before he could act, his ex-girlfriend returns like a repentant dog, begging him to disregard what she said earlier. Han looks at the girl, and with his new system, he can see her attributes and realizes that she is now far inferior to him. While she keeps talking endlessly, he can only focus on the system's information. Then, he rejects her and completely ignores her. But the girl does not give up and says this is not over yet. However, as soon as Shia moves away from him, the other girls start laughing at her as the tables have now turned, until they begin talking about another girl, one they even find pretty, but do not believe in her potential. The others say that with a useless contract, she will not last long. At the academy, her name is Sua, and she hears the girls calling her just a pretty face, quickly feeling upset for not being seen as someone capable. She wonders why they have to treat her this way. Sua's face is soon covered in tears until, while running, she accidentally bumps into the protagonist. But seeing that she is about to fall to the ground, Han catches her and asks if she is okay. Deeply embarrassed, she says yes. However, the protagonist analyzes her and realizes that the girl is one of the 10 ancient deities, yet she awakened at rank E, one of the lowest, leaving him, wondering why. Then she steps back and apologizes for falling on him. The protagonist says it is fine and gently pats her head, saying that he would like to invite her to join him in an exclusive spiritual contract and become his ally. Immediately, jealousy arises among the other girls as they consider themselves more beautiful and more competent than Shia, even wanting to fight her for the protagonist, until Chen Guangpu, the academy director, appears and interrupts the commotion. He says he admires the protagonist's attitude, but states that forming a contract like this cannot be done recklessly, as someone like him is destined for greatness, and his mission is to defend humanity. Shu agrees with the director and says her abilities are not worthy of the protagonist. Then Xiao, who is the guardian of Profound Blue City, appears, saying that Hanan has caused quite a stir today. Zhao Mi gets excited upon seeing him, as he is her godfather. He asks the protagonist if he used his SS rank to bully his precious goddaughter. He also says that no one in the city will dare form a contract with the protagonist and tells him not to be ungrateful. XA agrees, saying that if he apologizes to her godfather, she might forgive him and accept forming a contract. But the protagonist asks if she is even worth it. Immediately, Joe becomes furious at this provocation and tries to hit him. However, even as the city's guardian, he is stopped. The protagonist does not lift a single finger. The one who intervened for him was the academy director, who tells the guardian not to be impulsive and attack a newly awakened SS rank, warning that he will report this incident. Zalu says he will lead the protagonist alone, but only if he forms a contract with CUA, believing this will be his punishment. Otherwise, he will destroy him. Thus, Han declares that he will form the contract, and there is no changing his decision. Then he tells CU that they will make the pact. She apologizes as she has caused him trouble. However, Han tells her she has nothing to apologize for because he believes she will be of great help. Immediately after, the protagonist uses his powers to seal the contract with her. The girl begins to feel its effects as she is enveloped by the protagonist's energy, and shortly after they officially become allies. Then, the protagonist checks through the system. The benefits he has gained: a soul contract so powerful that, in his opinion, it perfectly synchronizes primary combat recovery and major support compositions. Shay Wei also starts noticing the changes. She has jumped from rank E straight to rank SS due to the Contract Act, and she thanks the protagonist immensely. The people around them witness everything. On the other hand, his ex claims she was humiliated by him and asks Zhe Hu if she will be compensated for it. He responds that forming a contract with someone of rank E is already the protagonist's punishment, as this will make Han John's life in the city much harder. Besides, he has already arranged an evaluation with a master of contracts for Cha. However, Jay, who then asks how she will thank him, she replies that they can go to their usual special place, where she will reward him. Immediately, Zhao starts thinking he is in for a great night. A few hours later, he picks up his phone and checks the circulating news. He sees that someone has posted negative news about the protagonist online and feels delighted about it. Not only is he happy, but so is Shia, as she praises her godfather in every way. Z, who thinks that public opinion is just a prelude, and that once the evaluation begins, he will show the protagonist what true cruelty is, but for now he enjoys the pleasures of her company. The next day, in the academy's cafeteria, the protag and his assistant are being talked about negatively, as gossip about them is already spreading. Sho feels guilty and apologizes for it, but the protagonist tells her she shouldn't keep apologizing for everything and says that she is the most beautiful girl in the academy, so she should have more confidence in herself. He decides they should eat well for the evaluation, and he tells Ku to ignore those clowns because soon they will see what she is capable of. Then, someone approaches the protagonist and says that people are calling Han Jo-han a genius, but upon seeing him, he doesn't seem like much. His name is Wang Lumu Xiaomi's contracted partner, but as he introduces himself, the protagonist starts laughing. Wang Lumu asks what he is laughing at, and Hansen replies that he just found something amusing. Chell tells her partner not to lower himself to their level, claiming that the protagonist is just someone who has fallen from grace and will soon be exiled. Then she tells them to hurry to the evaluation. That same day, in the evaluation arena, The representative tells the students that the test will soon begin and states that this is the hardest one yet, and only those who pass will be successfully qualified to go. First, he calls Xiaomi and Huan Lumu. Thus, the pair stands up and heads to the arena. Once inside, a door opens before them, and from it, a giant insect emerges. This is the most difficult test. Defeating a giant insect, Wang Mao seems extremely excited to begin. He uses his partner's abilities and borrows her spear to use in the fight, as he intends to defeat the monster with it. But as soon as he lands the first attack, it does not deal much damage to the creature, so he realizes he will have to strike again with more force. This time, he puts more strength into the blow, successfully slicing the insect in half. The audience gets excited upon seeing such a feat. Not only do the people in the arena watch, but the footage is broadcast to the officials' room. However, Weekon, the leader of the first district, is unimpressed, claiming that this insect is easy compared to others. But his professor corrects him, telling him not to speak nonsense. Li Jingguan from the second district says that as an S-rank spirit, Xiao Mei should have been able to kill the insect in a single strike, but she was 20% weaker. He believes that the contracted spirit probably lacks discipline in her lifestyle, which led to spiritual energy leakage. Z, who knows this is his fault, but remains silent. Back in the fight, the two are congratulated for their victory, and the announcer even says they have broken the Academy's record. Soon the audience also praises their performance, not believing that the next contestants can do better. Speaking of which, the announcer is about to call the next participants, and he calls Han Jan and SEI to the arena. The two stand before the door until the protagonist notices something different. Not just one, but 10 flying insects appear to face them. Shia says that this was supposed to be a test with one enemy, and asks why there are 10. The audience begins to realize that the show will be more interesting than they had expected. The announcer explains that the test is tailored to the participant's level, so someone with a set of rank must face all these enemies. He says this based on an arrangement with Shia, who had planned all of this beforehand, and he thinks this is because the protagonist messed with the wrong person. Now, Han and his partner will have more difficulties than they anticipated. Prepared for battle, the protagonist arms himself. He grabs the weapon that awakened with him and uses it against the insects. A sonic wave is emitted like a blast, striking the enemies head-on. The audience is impressed by this. Even the officials question whether this is really possible. One of them mentions that the protagonist took only 30 seconds to eliminate all 10 insects. Finding it astonishing, Jingxin thinks that although Han is incredibly strong, he does not seem to follow the test rules. Besides, the difficulty was increased significantly. Zihu says that this is a temporary addition to the Blue City Protectors and believes that young people should not waste their talent and set a bad example. But at the same time, he wonders how the protagonist is so strong, and he thinks that 20 enemies should be enough. Next time, Wei Ezi, on the other hand, seems satisfied with the test results, claiming that the protagonist appears too comfortable, proving his worth. His master agrees, but wants to see how far the protagonist's limits go. Then the test begins at level 2, with twice the number of enemies. The protagonist conjures a type of musical spell, and once again prepares to use his heart. The insects fly toward him until they start feeling the effect of the spell and fall to the ground already defeated. Thus, the protagonist believes it is enough. Unlike the audience, who are once again impressed by his performance, EQ, the person in charge of the third district, sees his rival eyeing the protagonist, but quickly claims that he also wants him on his team. At that, a discussion begins between them about who will have the boy on their team. Shen Jiki from the 4 district tries to interrupt the fight, but the two join, forces to tell him to shut up until the professor orders them to stop the commotion. Then he hears the leader of the 2nd district suggest increasing the challenge. Thus, he agrees to proceed, raising the test level among all of them. The happiest one is precisely Zaho. Back in the test arena, the announcer declares that the challenge level will increase. Soon, the level 5 test begins, featuring several fierce lizards and thunderbirds. The audience can't believe what they are witnessing, as they have never seen anything like it before. Meanwhile, the protagonist shows no sign of weakness. Seeing this, his opponent calls him arrogant. The lizards charge at full speed, while the birds attack with thunder, but the protagonist remains unfazed. Once again, using his harp, he counterattacks, this time summoning warriors to assist him, who in large numbers charge into battle. The warriors face the lizards head-on, but end up being defeated by the birds, who destabilize them with their thunder attacks. Not only that, but the arena walls are also affected. The protagonist notices this and retreats. However, he does not flee from the fight. He only moves away from the thunder. His movements are so impressive that the audience can't believe their own eyes. Regardless, the protagonist repositions himself in another area, and once again with his harp he prepares to attack. He uses sound against the monsters once more and breaks their formation. Seeing that the protagonist is not only very young, but has also defeated high-caliber monsters, the audience is shocked by his performance. Even his opponents are impressed by his talent. Thus, the announcer declares Han Yan the winner of Level 3 in the high ranking of S. Room, they are also impressed as they witness his ability to use music in battle. Not only that, but the most astonishing fact is that he achieved this despite having formed a contract with someone of rank E. Soon the professor calls for AFU. The man presents himself to his master and asks for his orders. He says that AFU has the ability to identify the rank of contractors and asks him to analyze. He attempts to analyze but fails, stating that it might be a situation similar to that of Miss Ling Jyn. She was identified as rank E by the awakening stone, but his talent does not reach the same conclusion. However, she is so powerful because she signed a contract with Han Jyn. The professor finds this bizarre, and if true, it would be necessary to ensure that Ling Jyn and Han Jyn meet. By the way, he asks for the name of Ling Jyn's talent. AFU replies that it is Shen's cauldron. Back to the protagonist, he says he wishes to continue the test. The official is surprised but agrees to proceed. Soon, the Level 4 test begins. New monsters appear to face him, and once again, the protagonist defeats them all with his power. He slices them apart and says he wants to feel challenged as he seeks to test his limits. The challenge level keeps increasing, and at each stage, he proves superior to his enemies, leaving only the corpses of monsters in the arena until the official states that he has already reached level 9, adding that he can stop if he wants. But the protagonist opposes this, declaring that he wishes to go up to level 10. The official calls him crazy, claiming that no one has ever succeeded at this level before. Even the people in the audience know this and want to see if the protagonist is truly capable of surpassing the highest level. The leader of the first district says that in his time, this evaluation system was challenged up to difficulty level 9, but that was already a new record in 100 years. The head of the second district says that this boy has great talent and wants him on his team. So a discussion begins between them about who will get the protagonist. Then the leader of the first district suggests a competition, which the leader of the second district accepts. Back in the arena, the person in charge of the challenges says that if the protagonist insists on the challenge, he cannot stop him, but he must warn him that this level is impossible, and that if he wins, Han Jyn says that he is aware of this and only needs some time to recover before starting. The official states that the evaluation has a rule, not allowing more than 5 minutes of rest, but the protagonist says he just wants some time for a sound rest. Through his sonic abilities, he recovers once, again impressing those watching. Meanwhile, the district leaders continue competing for him until Li Jingshan, the leader of the 5th district, appears questioning whether it is really appropriate to send such a versatile spiritual contractor who can absorb spiritual energy and heal injuries to the front lines. Soon the others ask if he also wants to join the competition, but Liu Jingshan simply says to lead the protagonist with him as he will be more useful in his team. However, it is of no use as the others also want the protagonist and they are willing to fight each other for him. If not for the interference of his master, he says that the 8 great districts of Daxia each have their own responsibilities and have made great contributions. The first district excels in decisive battles. The second district specializes in strategy. The third district expands territories. The fourth district explores and seeks the truth. The fifth district saves lives. The sixth district guards key passages. The seventh district traverses the oceans, and the eighth district remains behind the scenes. These 8 great districts are the pillars of Daxia. They hold up the sky for the people below. The old man once considered creating a 9th district, but never took the initiative. Wing asks if he is really going to build a new district, but for Li Jingsuan, there is no need to ask that because when looking at the protagonist, the answer is obvious. The challenge that strikes fear into everyone appears revealing itself to be a high-level flaming beast. The announcer says that the protagonist will have to survive the attacks of this monster for 3 minutes to pass the test. The creature is so fierce that its movements affect even those in the audience. However, they see that the protagonist in turn has not moved and is not intimidated by standing before such a dangerous demonic beast. Hanjan asks Sewei if she is ready. The girl responds that she is stating that no matter what he decides, she will provide the necessary support. Then the protagonist advances, saying that as a master of spiritual contracts, he is not there just to survive, but to defeat the creature that has never been conquered before. He dodges the monster's fire attacks, which are extremely destructive and dangerous. However, the protagonist has the aid of his magic heart, and through it, he manages to invoke chanting magic. This power is magnificent according to those who observe him, leaving the audience deeply affected. But Hanjan is focused on his mission. He wants to kill this monster. Soon he uses the wind, hoping to counterattack the enemy's fire. Thus, the enemy loses its balance, being carried away by the force of the wind like a hurricane. The wind affects it, disintegrating the monster completely. The audience had already witnessed the protagonist's strength before, but this time he defeated a challenge said to be impossible, and they cannot believe their own eyes. Even his rivals are shocked to see this. For his part, Hanjan says that forcibly executing a high-level zither composition still causes a severe reaction. Basically, that was what he did. Then one of the leaders approaches and congratulates him for passing all the tests and breaking the score record. The protagonist asks who he is. He introduces himself as Lin Jinan, the leader of the 2nd District, and is there to ask a few questions, such as who he thinks will win in the end. Hanjan says that the enemies are stronger, but he does not believe that humanity will perish. Lin likes the answer and asks what motivation Hanjan has to fight. He responds that he fights to prevent the enemies from wiping out the rest of humanity and hopes that humans will be able to live in peace and prosper. Furthermore, he wishes to restore the glory of Duxia. The master of the leaders, Li Shuang, appears and praises the protagonist, asking if he would like to become one of his disciples. Hanjan recognizes him, knowing that Lutang is the most powerful figure in the Duxia family. 100 years ago, the 3 main Zerg emperors joined forces to overthrow Duxia, bringing it to the brink of destruction. At the critical moment, Li Shuang fought alone against the 3 Zerg emperors, killing them and saving Duxia. Knowing this story, the protagonist feels excited to learn that the master wants him as a disciple, so he accepts the offer to become his apprentice. The master says that the protagonist suits him much better than his other disciples. He also says that since they are just getting to know each other, he will give him a gift. He presents a ring made from the bones of the defeated emperor, which contains a part of history. The protagonist notices that this item holds a terrifying and fierce aura, assuming it is due to the nature of the dead emperor's bones. The master explains that this ring can repel low-level Zergs, but when facing more powerful ones, they may feel an even stronger urge to attack. If the protagonist is concerned, he should not wear it regularly. Hansen replies, "This is a gift from my master. Of course, I have to wear it." Seeing this, the master says that the protagonist is not like some of the weak ones who do not even dare to take the ring even when it is offered to them. Then he says that's enough talk and tells the protagonist and his companion to rest, as later he will take them to lunch to get to know them better. Later that day, they meet at a restaurant. The master says he has asked his other disciples to come as well because he wants them all to meet. Lai Jingguan formally introduces himself. Soon after, the heads of the other districts are also introduced. The protagonist and his companion say, "It is a pleasure to meet them." One of the leaders says they are like family now and don't need to be so formal, adding that only one of them is not present because he is busy with something. However, shortly after, that leader appears, introducing himself as the head of the 6th district. He hands his number to the protagonist, saying he can call in case of emergencies, but just as suddenly as he appeared, he vanishes like smoke. The protagonist is a bit confused and says that this leader has a unique personality. Then Lai Jingguan gives Hanjan a gift, saying that the box contains martial arts techniques, battle materials, and other useful things. Han thanks him for the gift until out of nowhere a woman appears shouting, asking if SE is not afraid of secretly eating food different from hers. Shia recognizes her as her aunt. The woman is furious at the girl for this, claiming that she used to eat at her house, but now that she has made a fortune, she is enjoying herself at her expense. She even tries to assault her niece, but before she can, she is stopped. The protagonist prevents her from getting close to his friend. The woman asks if he is the boy who took her niece away from her. He says yes. The aunt says she raised CAA for a long time and now wants to be rewarded. However, the girl becomes irritated with her telling her aunt to stop talking nonsense. Nonetheless, the woman says that SEI has no right to speak to her that way, claiming that as soon as she grew wings, her niece started rebelling. Then she threatens the girl, saying that her boyfriend is from the 4th District, and because of that, she will make it impossible for her to live peacefully as a contracted spirit. The leader of the 4th District hears the woman say this and is startled, but the woman does not recognize him and asks who he is to doubt her words. Not only that, but she also confronts the master of the leaders. She claims she will demand what is rightfully hers, and that if the old man wants to keep her niece, he must pay for her house, her car, and everything in her name. She also says she has relatives in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th war zones, and if he does not dare to give her what she is asking for, she will make him suffer. The master speaks directly to his disciples, stating that the disrespect of this woman cannot go unpunished. Immediately, each of the leaders calls their districts and takes the necessary measures. The woman refuses to back down. She claims she also has connections with influential people. However, shortly after her phone rings, she answers, and on the other end, her grandfather gives her a harsh scolding, saying that her actions are tarnishing the family's name. The master merely observes her at that moment. Meanwhile, her grandfather continues reprimanding her, telling her to behave, or else she will be a dead person soon. In shock, she drops her phone to the ground and asks who this man standing before her is. After that, the restaurant staff tries to make her leave, but the woman continues to cause a scene like a child. She throws a tantrum, saying she does not deserve to be treated this way until the master grows tired of the noise she is making and using his abilities silences the woman. Shia feels extremely embarrassed and apologizes on behalf of her family, but her master does not blame her for this, stating that now he and the other disciples are her family as well. Furthermore, he says that she will no longer need to return to her aunt's house, as from now on she will be taken in by them. Sha Yui thanks him for his kindness, and the master simply tells them to enjoy the food. He also explains that there are rules to follow when eating the 9-grade dinner. The middle grade is for hot pot dishes, which should be consumed right after cooking. The 4 large gray square grades at the corners are for stews, which are suitable for long cooking. After that, he tells the protagonist that everyone has their own path, and no one is certain of their future, not even himself. The protagonist reflects on these words. Meanwhile, the master notices something different and realizes that the food is no longer in front of him. Han notices it too and sees that while they were talking, SE had prepared his meal as a gesture of gratitude. Lai Jinin, seeing this, asks if they are dating. This embarrasses them, but he claims that after intimate acts, a spiritual master can evolve and even gain a certain degree of replicative. These abilities are not very powerful, but are highly useful. There are 2 types of spiritual forms, materialized and humanized. Their spiritual companions are in their humanoid forms. Thus, Jian says that masters and spirits can fight together or separately, but he adds that this is only if they have engaged in intimate acts first. Li Jinan asks if XA is really just rank E. Han Zhan says that she was in fact level E at the beginning, but she has the ability to revive her divinity. After that, she ascended to rank SSS. The leaders are surprised to hear this. Han explains that others believe he chooses his spirit randomly, but he would never contract an ordinary spirit because of his talent. If he encountered a spirit with divinity, he would not pass it up even if it were low level. Besides the FXY Zither, there are 9 other ancient divine weapons. Then the master says that no one should know about this talent except them, and he tells Jinshan that when he returns, he should classify Han Yan in CIAU as the highest level secret and prevent anyone from accessing it. After that, one of the leaders says that he and his team have managed to win 19 consecutive battles, and in addition have reclaimed about 20% of enemy territory. The master praises this work and appreciates receiving good news for a change. Then he suggests a toast to that and to the new students. Late at night, they leave the gathering, and the protagonist notices that the master has had too much to drink. However, the master tells him not to worry about it, as he must get to know his new home. Upon entering Han, John says he did not expect the master to have a house in Shenin City. He explains that this is his wife's hometown. This also surprises the protagonist, as he did not know the master was married. Li Shuang says that it has been a long time, and reveals that his wife died in battle. He also says that everyone knows he killed the 3 Zerg emperors, but no one remembers his wife. Faced with this delicate situation, the protagonist apologizes for bringing up the subject. The master simply tells him to be kind to his companion, as they are not just contracted spirits, nor mere tools for fighting. They are also human beings. Henan asks the master to say his wife's name, stating that as long as there is someone who remembers her, she will not be forgotten by the entire world. Li Shuang says that the protagonist is truly remarkable and reveals that his wife's name was Lin Mai. In that historic battle, he killed one, Zerg Emperor, and she fought to the death against the other two. If she were still alive, she would be more qualified than him to have the honor of saving the SE Empire. After their conversation, the master takes them to their rooms, and outside he rests alone under the starlight, remembering his wife and the good memories they built together until his new students appear, saying that they do not want to leave their master alone enjoying the starlight. The master thanks them and says that seeing the two of them reminds him of when he and his wife were younger, and he tells them that if they want to protect the person they love, they must be strong enough. So he will teach them martial arts techniques. Then the master channels his energy preparing to teach the two of them. He then introduces the technique called Baki Quan, explaining that it has 8 locks in total, corresponding to 8 strategic points in the human body. Once all 8 locks are unlocked, one surpasses their limits. The protagonist follows the master's instructions, surprising him because he learned faster than the master expected, as it would normally take about 6 months to reach that level. Han simply says that he is feeling the energy of the place and channeling it. The master attacks, saying that now he will teach him the fighting technique using the 8 locks. Hanan is caught off guard and falls after being hit. Li Shuang says that he will make him realize that being too much of a genius is not always good and that he should be a bit more reserved. For the master, it is very satisfying to teach a lesson to a talented disciple, but for Hanjan, it would be better to have a kinder master. The next day at Ivy Academy, Shia asks if the protagonist is still in pain. He says no, and that he already feels better until they come across some attention seekers who provoke them precisely because of their performance on test day. But the protagonist simply ignores them and tells his friend to do the same. After that, they go to the director's office, who tells them he has bad news. According to the higher-ups, they will be assigned to the Deep Blue City Guardians starting today, starting from the bottom, to perform frontline duties. They must report to the organization as soon as possible. The director acknowledges that this decision is a bit excessive given their talents, but it is an order from above, and he has already tried to argue against it. But the protagonist says that this is a good decision and thinks that it is exactly as his master said. The provocative students return and once again begin mocking the two of them. However, this time the protagonist does not ignore them. He confronts these troublemakers head-on until their leader challenges him to a fight. Then the protagonist says he will make him pay for all this humiliation. So the two clash, but Hanjan comes out on top as the troublemaker's arm snaps in half upon being hit. The protagonist is not satisfied with that. He completely unhinges and lands a solid punch on the troublemaker's face, forcing him to swallow his insult. As soon as it ends, the protagonist leaves with his friend, leaving the defeated opponent on the ground. Seeing this, the director calls for someone from the infirmary to attend to the fallen student outside. Han and his friend head to the Guardian's headquarters to register. The receptionist treats them with disdain, but as soon as he sees who they are, he quickly changes his attitude, claiming that he had been expecting them. Then he pulls up the files and says that the two will be in the same squad within the Guardians organization. Each person has a primary team which is responsible for supervising the other Guardians. The others are numbered according to their districts and belong to different teams. After this explanation, the reception points them to the room they should go to. However, as soon as they arrive, the room is completely messy, so they wonder what happened there. Inside, a woman asks who they are and what they are doing there. The protagonist says that he has been appointed the new captain of Team 527, until a man lying down hears this and says that he hasn't even fully grown his hair out yet and he already wants to be the new captain. Shui does not like this behavior and asks why this man is acting that way. Even the protagonist wonders if all squad members are like this. Then the man stands up and tries to tease Sii, saying that her voice is too serene for someone who is angry. However, the protagonist does not like the way he is behaving near his friend and immediately punches him, sending the man to the ground with a bloody nose. Hong Wei tells him to keep talking to the leader because she is leaving. Ian asks her to leave some money with him to buy drinks. However, she walks away saying she has no money. After that, Ian says that this team is so depressing that they don't even have money to buy alcohol and asks if the protagonist really intends to stay. Han John says that as long as he stays there, any problem will be temporary. But Fan says he is just overestimating himself. He also says that they were ranked last among the Guardian teams of Deep Blue City in terms of points. Soon, in 2 months, it will be the end of the year, and the organization will hold a dismissal meeting for the teams. The detainees will be sent to the lower district. Judging by their team's current points, dismissal is inevitable. The lower district is chaotic, dirty, and degraded with extremely harsh living conditions. Then he says that if the protagonist does not want to die in a lower district, he should leave quickly. The protagonist realizes that Jan is trying to send him to a dangerous district to get rid of him, but says that he will not succeed. Shui says that insisting on this squad is a waste of time, but the protagonist says that running away from problems only gets a person used to cowardice. Only by overcoming them is it possible to become stronger. Besides, even if they joined another team, Zhao would not leave them alone. Instead, he thinks it is better to stay and change the team, turning it into the #1 team in Deep Blue City. And with that, put an end to Z's plans. After that, Hen goes to Hong Yinu, but she is not at all willing to talk to him. The protagonist asks how long she will sit there, doing nothing, waiting for death, and asks if he should call her Hong Yingu or Bi Shuang. Immediately, she asks who exactly the protagonist is and how he knows that. Hanzon formally introduces himself and says that this is just a small transformation of his abilities. The girl, however, says that if he intended to use this to threaten her, he better give up now. But the protagonist only invites her to carry out tasks, claiming that she does not really want to give up, and that if she cooperates with him, he promises it will be worth it. She agrees, thinking that this man can see through her lies, which is really a bit unusual, and trying to work with him once will not hurt. Thus, the protagonist says that she will be responsible for gathering the tasks and he will do the selection. Hong Yingu says that there are 3 suitable tasks for their group at the moment and asks him to take a look. The protagonist says that these tasks are a bit difficult with few points and wonders how long it would take to surpass the others. Then he states that if they are going to do this, he wants to take on the task with the highest points. But Hong Yingui does not agree. She says that this is not advisable, and besides, they would need to have 6 to 8 people in the group for that. Hanjan knows this, but says that only these tasks can help them get the necessary points. Hingu calls him crazy, stating that if they fail, they will still receive a 10% penalty on their already few points. But the protagonist says that he will take full responsibility for any problems. She agrees to go along with it, but thinks that in the end, she will be the one responsible for carrying their bodies when they lose. Far away, another group is handling the cleanup of a battlefield, but they cannot handle it alone, having to rely on the collaboration of another group. However, their leader tells some to guard the entrance to the sewers and check if anyone is trying to handle it alone. A little later, the protagonist arrives with his group, and Hong Gen warns him about the possible dangers of this area. However, the protagonist, along with his friend, runs ahead, telling Honggu to wait there, as they will be back soon. Honggu does not understand why he did that, claiming that completing this task would already be difficult with a large group, let alone with just 2. Then, she decides that she will not let it go like that and runs after them, going against the leader because she believes that if she does not, something bad will happen. Hong Yingui reaches them with a slight delay. When she approaches, the protagonist says that everything is already taken care of. She sees the bodies of Zergs on the ground and cannot believe that the protagonist was the one who took them all down. Hanan simply says that the mission is complete and that now they only need to collect the valuable materials from the Zerg's bodies. He also says that the dead guy on the ground must be a missing guardian and tells Hunging Wei she can take him away. While she wonders how the protagonist did this, the other group approaches. They arrive at the same place sometime later. They find the bodies of the enemies already stripped. Besides realizing that all have already been defeated, they see that the treasure has also been collected, but they do not know who did it. In Z's room, he receives some information that the protagonist's group has already completed 2 missions and has 350 points. Upon hearing this, he becomes furious and takes it out on his assistant. Then he says that the protagonist is no longer a hindrance just because he found a sponsor. Soon he orders his assistant to go and inform the other squads to take on all the missions in Blue City, leaving none behind. Back home, the protagonist's master says he heard about his problems with Xiaohu and asks if he needs help. Hands-on thanks him, but says no. Xiaohu says he is more concerned with other problems within the Guardians, an organization that took on the name of the city's protectors, but has done nothing to protect it. The master says that when an organization grows and develops, it will inevitably encounter various problems. Over the years, they have been so busy that their internal powers have slowly rotted away. They are decayed and there is absolutely no cure, so they need a fire to reignite them. That is why Xiaohu was chosen. A fire can burn dead leaves and dispel darkness, but it can also be extinguished at any moment. Zhu says that lately, he has not been able to advance to the next level of the 8 deadly fists technique and asks what he should do to progress. The master says that if he wants to break through the 8 deadly points, he must remember these 4 words between life and death. After a good meal, the protagonist thinks he will finally have a well-deserved moment of rest until SE appears asking if she can sleep in his room that night. He says the house is quite large and asks why Shu wants to sleep there specifically. Xia responds that the master locked all the other room doors. Hanan feels awkward, but agrees, saying he will sleep on the floor while she can have the bed. However, she insists that the protagonist take the bed, but he asks if that is a good idea. After much insistence, the two end up sleeping together in the same bed. The next day, Hen gets up saying that just like the previous day, he wants to find good missions to complete, but as soon as he enters his group's meeting room, he comes face to face with Hong Gingu and Yan. They discovered who the protagonist is and went straight to his house. Honggu says that last time she did not know he was so powerful and thought he had used connections to join the group, so she apologizes to him. She also says that now that the authorities have sent a genius to protect the city, it does not matter what happened before, because she believes he will be useful sooner or later. Ian says that the protagonist is aggressive and even offended Zhao, which makes their lives more difficult, potentially leading to demotions or worse. Hong Yingui says that for some reason all available missions in the city have already been taken, leaving nothing for them. Then the protagonist asks if there are any missions in other cities. Hong Yingui had not thought of that. Soon, Hanan checks the mission board for Kangai City and realizes that there is something there. However, he does not understand the information. Hong Yingu explains that although they can take on missions in other cities, it also means they will have to travel to complete them. However, the roads connecting the cities are infested with highly dangerous monsters. Sometime later, they are speeding down the roads in a 4x4, and it does not take long for the insects to appear and attempt to attack them. Hanjan says that these creatures usually move in swarms because in large groups they increase their destructive power. Ian, who had been sleeping until then, wakes up startled by the insects. They start grouping together until they begin flying in the same direction, creating a tornado which astonishes the group. Due to being intoxicated, Ian is the only one who remains calm. Hong Inu, who is driving, asks the captain what they should do. The protagonist says that their target is not them, but a caravan nearby. With that, Hong Inu asks if they should help. Hanjan says yes and tells her to go full speed toward them. This in a way excites Yan. Then Hong Yingui turns the car straight toward the tornado at full speed, causing her teammate to hit his head. He feels the pain but pretends to be fine. On the other side, the caravan under attack is getting the worst of it. A girl named Shang Si is being protected, and the person in charge says that they cannot slow down now, or they will be hit. He also says that saving the reinforcements is practically impossible, since their main goal is to protect the girl. Right after that, through the radio, he orders the execution of the plan and the sacrifice. The girl even tries to stop it, but they claim that protecting her is the priority. Then, at the leader's command, they attack the enemies with heavy weapons. However, their attacks only serve to delay them, as they are ineffective against these insects. Shang Qing feels frustrated for not being able to save them, but her guardian tries to comfort her, claiming that it is an honor to die in her service and protection, and that she should not blame herself. Until suddenly, they begin to hear a strange sound. Once again, the tornado is attacked, but this time by the protagonist with his magic harp attacks the enemies from a distance. Thus, the hurricane is slowly dissipated from inside the car. Shang-Si can see this until her car and the protagonist get very close. Han does not stop using his powers as the situation is still not safe. Shang-Chi is impressed to see someone dispersing the storm, as she did not know that anyone was capable of it after that. Each goes in opposite directions, but the insect hurricane has not yet been completely defeated until the moment comes when they decide to fight back. Ian warns his group to be careful, but in the middle of it all, he is hit. After falling into the back of the truck, he still manages to joke around, but the protagonist says he needs a healing potion and that if he does not remove the stakes that hit him, he will soon die. So Han tries to do it as quickly as possible and removes the sharp objects one by one. After that, he asks how his companion is doing. Then he decides to analyze him and discovers that Yan has an impressive healing factor, making him practically immortal. Ian gets up and says that this is part of his talents and that he forgot to mention it before. But the protagonist does not pay much attention to this, as there are still problems to solve. A little later, they continue the mission. Chowie says that they have apparently arrived at the task. Location. Ian decides to take a look, spotting a swarm of insects ahead. They are in great numbers, but the heroes do not intend to retreat now. With Sei's help, the protagonist prepares, saying that now he can truly start earning points. Soon he decides to use his magic harp again. This way he manages to hit some insects and takes down a good number of them. This impresses Yan, as he and Hongin are left speechless witnessing the protagonist's power. A large screen shows that the tasks have been completed and an audience of other warriors watches. They wonder which team has somehow knocked out a bunch of tasks in record time until one of them pipes up that it was Team 527 from Deep Blue City. The leader of the rival group flips out because he can't stand the thought of a team from another city waltzing into Kangai to steal their thunder. He vows to track down this team and show them who's actually running the show, so he and some of his goons. His crew is all fired up about this mission because they want to put on a little show for the visitors, but the leader warns them about something serious. Apparently, there's a massive serpent that's already been taken down. He stares at his guys and says that the leader of this invading crew has really pushed it too far, so he tells his driver to turn this ride around because he's itching to confront this team. The driver gets ready to hit the road, but one of the team members jumps in front and tries to give his captain a heads up. He shouldn't underestimate the foreign team claiming that a black pickup truck was spotted leaving the city. The captain blows a gasket and socks the dude right in the nose. Back at the headquarters of the Guardian organization, Su Mingan, the third in command, scratches his head, wondering why the task completion rate in Kangai City, Deep Blue City, and the surrounding areas has shot up so much. His assistant casually answers that a team from Deep Blue City has recently become pros at snatching tasks in other cities. Su Mingan is all ears and asks to get a look at this team's records, clearly eager to see who they are. After a bit, he sips his coffee, and his assistant comes back with the information. Su Mingan waves him off, wanting a moment alone. The second he starts flipping through the files, he realizes they hold the top spots in the classified documents and wonders, is this even real? He couldn't believe it until he lands on the protagonist's file and sees that their information is even more top secret than his own team's. Just as he's trying to wrap his head around this, his phone rings. The voice on the other end introduces himself as Li Jinan, and Su Mingan's head spins as he wonders why he's getting a call from the second in command of the war zone. Li Jinan cuts straight to the chase, telling him to back off from investigating those files, and warns him that it's above his pay grade. He hangs up, mulling over what's so hush-hush about these folks that someone in high command wants to keep him in the dark. Speaking of the protagonist, he's gearing up to fight a serious beast. The creature lunges at the protagonist, but he nimbly dodges the attack, then counters with a brilliant move, right after he declares that the mission is a wrap and asks Honggan what points they racked up. She checks the data while Ian chimes in, saying, with all the missions they've nailed, they should be rising to number 1 soon. Hong Yingui chimes in, we've got 1,800 points, but we're still dead last. Shia scratches his head, puzzled, and asks if there's anyone out there who can knock out tasks quicker than them. Hong Yingui doesn't hold back and points her finger at Xiaohu, saying he's the reason for their troubles again. Hanjan mentions that the team in second to last place has 2,300 points. But get this, all 12 teams that used to be at the bottom are now tied. Hong Yingui scoffs, saying there's a dozen teams all tied up, and not everyone can boast S+ level talents to storm through dungeons endlessly. The protagonist wraps it up, claiming they're all cool with tying their scores. And once a task is done, everyone shares the points based on teamwork, because that's how they roll, without breaking any rules set by. The protagonist encourages the gang not to sweat it because they're doing all right and still have a shot at beating the rest. A little while later, Hanjan and Su are back home. Their master asks how the trip unfolded. The protagonist says they scored a ton of points, but it wasn't the best overall. One group, led by Hong Yingui, claims they have 1,800 points, but still occupy the last spot in the rankings. Shia is utterly baffled and wonders if there's anyone out there who can complete tasks faster than they can. It doesn't take long for Hong Yingui to point fingers at Xiaohu, accusing him of causing problems yet again. Hanjan chimes in, mentioning that the team just above them has 2,300 points. However, the 12 teams that were initially at the bottom of the list are now tangled in a tie. Hong Yingui points out that more than a dozen teams are stuck in this tie, and not everyone is blessed with SS-ranked talents to endlessly slog through dungeons. The protagonist suggests that everyone should agree to tie their scores, and once a task is completed, the points should be distributed to the same lucky individual. These points are a product of collective effort, meaning they're not breaching any rules set by the City Guardians organization. The protagonist reassures his group not to sweat it because they're doing just fine, and he still holds on to the belief they can outshine the competition at any moment. Sometime later, Hanzan and Su finally make it back home. The master inquires about their adventure, and the protagonist responds that they racked up a load of points, but the outcome wasn't stellar. However, they managed to save a convoy on the road. With that, the master asks if the little girl at the merchant shop was rescued by the protagonist, and if the guy she called not romantic was him. He is not surprised that the girl had been bothering him a few days ago, asking how to awaken and become a powerful spirit. Her grandfather and the master are old friends, and the Shang family is also behind one of the 5 leading technology companies. They mainly develop weapons. These weapons are state-of-the-art for spiritual masters and also for ordinary people who do not have spiritual contracts. The master says that Shang Kitin is like a granddaughter to him. The merchant brought her there on purpose to force her to return, but she was interrupted by the protagonist. Hanjan says that her identity is not simple, and he did not want to cause trouble. The master responds that it is fine. The convoy was escorting something meant for him, and it is something he intended to give to the protagonist anyway. Shur asks what it is. The master says they are innovative potions. Han Jo-han says that this potion increases strength, speed, reflexes, defense, and even talent, but he is unsure if it is true or not. The master asks why they are still standing around and tells each of them to grab one and swallow it quickly. They thank him and drink the potion. Soon after, the protagonist begins to feel its effects, not only him, but also his friend. The 4 celestial elements appear. Hanzan asks if after C's awakening, a new divinity has appeared. The will of the heavens is actually a celestial phenomenon. There are 4 phenomena in the sky: wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. Through this potion, both the protagonist and his friend's powers have been amplified. After the intense effect wears off, Hanjan says that the innovative potion is so powerful that not only did he level up, but he also gained more musical abilities for his friend's new divinity. Even Siyu says she feels much stronger. The master finds this splendid and tells them not to disappoint him with their new performances. Then the protagonist's phone rings. On the other, Han Hong Ningu says that a new city task list has appeared and that new missions are available. He sees that it involves 3 Zerg Rangers. A single Ranger is equivalent to 3 third-level spiritual masters, so he wonders if he should accept this mission. Then he tells his group to meet him on 6th Street to discuss it and informs the master that he and his friend are heading out. The master says that today is a busy day. Then his butler appears, saying that Miss Lingen has been found in Kangai City, but she refuses to return to see him. Back to the protagonist, he and his friend meet up with the rest of the team without wasting time. Hong Yingwei asks if they will accept the mission or not. Their captain says yes, as this is a great opportunity to earn more points. However, she warns that the Rangers, even when young, are too dangerous to be defeated. The protagonist asks if she knows what a red alert means. He then explains that it means if they do not eliminate that ranger now, once it fully matures, it will destroy the city. As a team of guardians, their original intention is not to fight for points, but to fight to protect humanity. The leader of the previous group says that this is the gift of the Wanderer, the Black Veil, which can isolate all perception, distinguish itself from the outside world, and create its own domain. Anything enveloped by it, regardless of whether it shows signs of life, will undergo accelerated aging and decay, ultimately leading to destruction. One of his teammates says that the higher-ups sent them to deal with the Wanderer and asks why they are still issuing missions externally. The captain says that the Wanderer is incredibly powerful and requires a large number of decoys to draw fire. He also says that they will not act yet because they want to wait until the first wave of cannon fodder goes in. From a distance, he sees the protagonist and his group. Hannon tells his team to be careful as this is the Black Veil cast by the Wanderer. Hingu asks if he is prepared for this because once inside, there is no way to return. Ian, on the other hand, says that this thing has no effect on him, so he does not care. The protagonist is not either and says that everyone will be fine. From afar, they see the place where they must enter. Inside, everything is abandoned and has a very eerie atmosphere. Hanjan says that the presence of insects inside is strong and warns everyone to stay alert. Ku says she feels like she is being watched at all times, as if a pair of eyes is following her constantly. Of all of them, she is the most fearful. Soon, she claims to have heard a strange sound and asks if the protagonist heard it too. Hingu says it feels like there is a force draining their lives. The Black Veil has a life deprivation ability. While they are inside, everyone's energy will be gradually drained until death. Ian says they have about half an hour. If they do not break the veil within that time, they will all become nourishment for the Wanderer's growth. Seeing a black sphere ahead, Hong Yingwu asks if that is what he is talking about. Her teammate says yes. The protagonist asks if they just need to break it, but as he approaches the object, his foot is sucked into the ground, which seemed solid before, but has now turned into something like quicksand. Honggu is swallowed, but Yan tries to pull her out. Han also steps in to help. He says that this is the second gift the Wanderer grants to any object life endowment. Light can be taken away, but it can also be granted. The things given life are not limited to humans, but can also include weapons, tools, and even the ground itself. Shui says that if that is the case, they should act together. The protagonist agrees with this and immediately grabs his magic harp. With it, he launches several attacks and blows up a nearby wall, causing it to crack. However, soon after, the wall regenerates, making the protagonist realize that the force within this place is greater than he expected. Not only that, but the entire area around him begins to move. He realizes this as an attempt to ambush them until a light appears above him. It was a sign that an insect was approaching. He was almost hit, but his harp spirit warned him, so Han managed to dodge just in time. The insect took the opportunity to escape between the walls. Han asks if what he saw is real, but his heart simply tells him to run because more insects are approaching. The leader of the group opposing the protagonist says that apparently there will be no more fresh cannon fodder, telling his people to stay alert. One of them tells the captain not to worry, as they are all third-level spirit contract masters, and with third-level spirit contract masters, they will definitely complete the mission. Even if things get out of control, they will still be able to retreat safely. But as soon as that was said, things started to go wrong. Something strange begins to happen amidst thick smoke. They become separated from each other until a team member starts looking for his captain, and when he finds him, he realizes that the captain is paralyzed. The captain sees the team member and his group and suddenly starts attacking him, leading the young man to be confused. However, he was not fully conscious, as an insect was controlling him. That same insect immediately jumped onto the young man as soon as he got close. Back at the protagonist's core group, Ian says that this Wanderer is trying to take them down one by one and finds it quite interesting. Hong asks if he cannot feel these invisible threads. He replies that he can break them, but they do not affect him at all. The girl says she envies him for having such a gift, but Yan asks if never having to worry about his life and being unable to die is actually a kind of punishment. Regardless, Yan says that since they cannot leave now, they might as well give up completely. But this idea does not sit well with Hong Ying Wei at all. She says he is nothing more than lifeless dust. Then Hong Yingwu touches a wall and creates a crack. Seeing the walls start to crumble, her partner panics. However, on the other side, a silhouette appears, and Yinu identifies it as her captain and warns him to be careful. The protagonist hears the warning and quickly dodges, barely escaping being crushed. Right after, he reunites with the rest of the group. However, as they are talking, a giant hand attacks them. This time, it is the protagonist who warns Hong Ningyu to be careful. She, along with her partner, is caught off guard and has no time to react. But Hannon acts quickly, saving them. He tells them to stay out of the way, as he realizes that the hand that attacked them belongs to a giant monster. With his magic harp, he prepares to attack and waits for the creature to come a little closer. Then he launches his attack at it. The two team members step back and realize that the protagonist is facing a powerful foe. Hanjan says that these monsters were all summoned by the Wanderer and that they need to destroy its body as quickly as possible. He also explains that after releasing the Black Veil, its body fused with the entire dark world. Now all that remains is this black sphere, and if they break the sphere, they will be able to kill the Wanderer. Hingu tells the protagonist to go ahead. Meanwhile, they will hold off the creature. Ian takes the lead with his powers. He unleashes a massive explosion, and as he gets closer to the enemy, he says that his immortality shield can only withstand 6 hits, so he urges the captain to run and find a solution. Thus, the protagonist pushes forward and tells him to hold on. Han Han also uses his powers, and through them, he concentrates a massive amount of lightning in an attempt to strike his target with power comparable to that of mythical creatures. The protagonist hits the creature that was about to strike Yan and lands a direct blow with a powerful lightning strike. Yan is somewhat startled by the impact, but not only was the creature hit, the sphere was as well. With that, it shatters into several pieces. This makes Yan feel relieved as he believes that, with this, they have secured their victory. But right after, the protagonist is struck and tells his companion to run. Han Han is caught off guard by an enemy who calls all humans insignificant and claims that none of them will escape. Ian realizes that this enemy is an adult wanderer. After that, Hong Yin's demeanor changes, and she says that this wanderer is a surprise she had prepared for them. She says that she masked her true intentions with lies and kept it by her side, waiting for the right moment to release it and deliver the final blow. The protagonist asks why she is doing this. Hong Yingyu simply answers the question, claiming that she has wanted to kill him all along. Hannon says that this is the second time, and it will definitely not be a mistake this time. He states that he has seen this before, and declares that she has been parasitized. The silver-white shadow of the insect he just saw in her pupils is the infamous worm erosion. The erosion worm is a 4th-level insect species with a terrifying ability called cerebral erosion. Any creature whose brain is invaded by the worm will be completely controlled. Not only that, but it has the ability to reproduce asexually and divide itself. In the history of the Blue Stars, a 7th-level fighter had his brain invaded. He massacred an entire city that he once protected, leaving behind nothing but carnage and corpses. It took an enormous effort and countless resources to stop him for the organization to finally kill him, but the laws were heavy. This species was supposed to have been completely eradicated by the first war zone 32 years ago, so the protagonist wonders why it is still appearing now. After that, he tells his captain to go while he provides cover with his immortality. Hanjan says that the black veil of the adult wanderer has absorbed the young wanderer that was just killed, and its range has expanded tenfold. At their current speed, they will be killed by the enemy before even reaching the edge of the black veil. So the protagonist wants Ian to just buy enough time for him to heal. Seeing this, Hong Ningyu becomes desperate and orders the wanderer to attack immediately. It obeys, but Yan shields his captain. He uses his shield to block the enemy's attack from hitting the protagonist. But right after Hong, Yingui appears and claims that Yan's powers are not real and that he does not have an immortal body. Angrily, he says that whether it is real or not is none of her business, and he headbutts his former partner. Because of this, the insect controlling her is thrown off, and it moves toward him, attacking his arm. However, Yan quickly defends himself and crushes the insect, preventing it from taking control of his brain. But the adult wanderer is still standing. Seeing what just happened, it decides to attack again, immediately firing a laser beam at the heroes. Ifan blocks it once more. With his shield, then asks how much longer the protagonist will need. He replies that Sei and Yan should handle the erosion worm while he takes care of the adult wanderer. Han Jan says that he did not expect to have to use his full strength, but now he sees that it will be necessary. The protagonist attacks the enemy and completely destroys it. Due to the applied force, the insect becomes extremely irritated because of that, but is surprised to see someone so young with so much strength. Now it wants to see how many moves the protagonist can perform. Han defends against the enemy strike with his gloves and basically shatters the energy directed at him. His opponent wonders where he got that pair of gloves. He claims that more than a decade ago, he killed a Zerg king on the battlefield, and those gloves belong to the strong. But he says the boy is far from that. Yong says he may not be strong, but claims that this insect is also not the Zerg king. After that, he attacks it with the gloves. The insect says that having this pair of gloves makes it seem like the protagonist is a strong man, and the gloves have a very special connection with him. In that case, if it kills him, the gloves will remain sad for a long time, which will move him emotionally. Jong thinks he must kill the enemy before it absorbs all of the young ranger's energy. Otherwise, there will be no chance of defeating it. This is his only chance, and this is his only life. Is this the feeling between life and death? He wonders, considering it as something truly stressful. After opening the 8th, Sealjong thinks he won't last long, and the only way to survive is to keep fighting until the end. So he rushes toward the opponent, willing to fight to the death. With that, he manages to land a punch on the insect's chest, causing it to split in half, and its pieces spread across the area. After that, however, even though it was split into several pieces, the enemy remains alive, surprising the protagonist. It then gathers all its parts together, returning to its original form, claiming that for the protagonist, the fight ends now. Fan appears next, saying that Bei Shuang has disappeared, but Jan doesn't even have time to think about it, since the enemy returns and attacks him. It tells the protagonist that there is no way to escape. Then it says it will take them all to hell and hurls a flaming stone sphere at them. Yin tries to hold off this attack using his abilities. While he is holding the stone thrown by the enemy, he tells the captain to run. Zhang knows that his ally won't be able to hold it for long until suddenly someone appears out of nowhere using an annihilation technique, the Sixth Fist, and destroys the stone with it, and also the giant insect. Upon seeing that unfold before their very eyes, both the protagonist and the rest of the group are left speechless. Right after that, they realize it was Master Le Shuang who says he showed up just in time to save them. The protagonist is impressed to witness his master's power, but because he was injured in the battle, he passes out. Next, his group is worried about him until the master tells them to return with the protagonist while he stays behind to clean up the mess. Ian doesn't understand right away what Le Shuang meant. Little does he know that the group's troubles are only beginning. Sometime later in a hospital, the protagonist wakes up screaming in a hospital bed. He is confused, but C tells him that everything is fine and that they are in the hospital. Sho explains that he passed out and that the master started eliminating the parasite worms, but since they could not locate the queen worm, they were unable to eradicate them completely. So he was taken to the hospital to recover. After hearing this, Han asks how Yan is doing. She responds that Yan is in the ICU because he did everything he could to hold off the enemy. As a result, his bones and meridians were completely shattered. If not for his immortality talent, he probably would have already died. Though he is not dead, his injuries are severe, but he is slowly repairing the damage. After this explanation, a nurse appears and asks if they are Yi Fan's colleagues. The protagonist responds that they are. Then the nurse says that he has disappeared. SEI says that the master ordered them to track the parasite worms on their own. Ba's departure is related to the parasite worms. He must have gone to find her and the worms. The protagonist says that Bei Shang is a crucial link. 4th-level parasites can reproduce asexually and divide, but if they can kill the Zerg queen, they will be able to take down all the other worms simultaneously. Ian must have discovered something and gone to investigate alone. There's one more thing. C mentions that the organization deducted 100 points from their team because the master completed the mission. In the end, all the other teams were considered to have failed, and their points were deducted accordingly. Hanan asks if while they were fighting on the front lines, the organization was playing these dirty tricks behind their backs. Shai says not only that, but they also took the Wanderer's corpse without leaving anything behind. All materials were taken back to the organization's headquarters. She also says that the master warned that this is a matter between them and the Guardians, and no one else would interfere, clearly implying that he is supporting them, even though he is still injured. The protagonist says that he will take back what is rightfully theirs. Shortly after he arrives at the organization with a forceful entrance, shouting in the middle of everyone for Z to show himself. One of those present asks what the protagonist is doing. He responds that he wants to speak with Jaku. This guy says that the protagonist seems a little too angry and should calm down, claiming that this is not the place to cause trouble. But when he tries to attack the protagonist, he gets swiftly countered and falls flat on his face. Sarcastically, the protagonist asks if anyone has ever told this guy that his smile really makes people want to punch him. The others are impressed to see the protagonist take down this arrogant man with just one hit, but the annoying man insists on fighting back and tries to attack the protagonist with a knife. However, once again, he is completely overpowered, being toyed with by Hanjan until Z, who appears and tells him to stop. Then the protagonist says that he finally decided to show up. Zahu asks what he wants, and Hanjan demands that he apologize to him and his team. After that, Zhu asks if he sent a video to headquarters. He responds that he did, including sending it to Vice Leader Su Minggan and the Supervision Department. Zoku says that as soon as the higher-ups find out that the protagonist hit people, he will be severely punished, but the protagonist is not worried at all. Then one of Zhao's men says that headquarters stated this is an internal matter and that the Guardians should resolve it on their own. Zai, who asks about the supervision department established by all the major war zones. His subordinate says that the supervisors commented that the young man who fought has impressive skills and even invited him to join them. With that, Jay, who becomes furious, asks what kind of nonsense bureaucracy this is. Seeing no way out, he asks what kind of apology the protagonist wants. Hanjan says that his team worked hard, but Zhao was the one who kept the reward. Therefore, he wants access to the Guardian's vault to take whatever he wants as a prize. Zhu says that only selected members can enter the vault, but the protagonist responds that for Z this should not be a problem and asks if he is really going to oppose it. Soon Xiao thinks about it and wonders if only one person enters, how many items can he take until he is satisfied. Then he says that only the protagonist may enter and that when he comes out, no item can be hidden anywhere except in his hand. Hanjan likes this deal and says that for him it is settled, but he thinks that he will take more than his rival imagines. Sometime later, they go to the City Defense Organization's treasure vault. The subordinate asks if there is any chance something could go wrong. Z, who responds that inside there are many valuable treasures and some not so interesting ones. Soon a newly graduated student will get lost in there, and even if he can fill both hands, he will not be able to carry much. His subordinate says that what the captain said makes sense. Inside, the protagonist picks up a treasure appraisal book and is dazzled by the number of items in the vault. Fortunately, he brought notes on everything stored there. Otherwise, he would not know what to look for. He sees the appendages of a third-order skeleton, ant Zerg, the bone wings of a fifth-order ghost butterfly, Zerg, an eternal winter flower, half-sleep branch grass, and even the shell of a level 6 wall crab. The protagonist knows that by using the main material, he can craft a very strong set of defense equipment. He says that all these things are valuable and he wants to have them all, because with the ring he received from his master, he can absorb all these items into the magical compartment. An hour passes, and Z, who asks why the protagonist has not come out yet until Hen finally appears and meets up with his friend. Shia asks how it went. He says he will tell her when they get back, and now that he has what he wanted, it is time to go home. But since he is empty-handed, Xiao and his men become suspicious, thinking that the protagonist did not take anything. So he decides to call the administrator, who reveals that the protagonist took many items. Zalu says that even if he took a lot, he promises that everything he collected will be returned sooner or later with interest. However, the administrator states that he took 50% of everything inside the vault, something Zhao never imagined. He says that the treasure was the entire property of the City Defense Organization, and that if the protagonist had taken just 1 or 2 items, it would have been easy to cover up, but he emptied half of the treasury all at once. He wonders if the organization will really let this slide. Then he tells his subordinate to report everything to headquarters, but his subordinate says he has already done so and that headquarters has already responded. Z asks what their response was. He says it was good measurement. Later that same day, the protagonist is already at home and says that with this lesson, he wants to see if Xiao Hu will dare to act arrogantly with him again. Suddenly, Shui appears saying that it is already late and invites him to sleep with her. Shui says that ever since he got injured last time, she has been afraid of losing him. Now she does not want to let him go no matter what happens. Out of nowhere, a girl appears, and she asks who's making so much noise at this hour of the night. The two become extremely embarrassed because they didn't know there was someone else in the house. The protagonist asks the girl who she is. She replies that she is the granddaughter of the house owner. Her name is El Lingen, and she says she has already heard about the protagonist. Han Han analyzes her and sees that she is a transcendent-level contracted spirit. Her real name is Shanong Ding, and she is one of the 10 ancient divine weapons. The girl says that this is her most comfortable state at home, maintaining. This form helps her find inspiration and creation. She also says that she is a best-selling online author. By the way, she apologizes for disturbing them and asks S.E. Wei if she is going to continue what she was doing, because if not, she will. Shui Wei tells the girl that she just met them and can't be impertinent without any emotional foundation, but El Lingen says she doesn't need that to form a contract. This leaves Shui Wei embarrassed because she thought the girl was talking about something else. The protagonist says that S.E. Wei's talent and rank truly possess divinity, and that if they form a contract, she will be able to use divine enlightenment to help him awaken a second time. This excites C, and she immediately wants to perform the contract. Seeing that the girl is super excited, the protagonist asks what making a contract has to do with taking off clothes. She says that she is a writer, and in her books, contracts are made after intimate contact. Han Han realizes he is dealing with an unusual situation. Even so, he continues with the contracting process. He then uses the divine light ability to activate the ancient divine weapon Shanong Ding. The girl says it is so hot that she feels a flaming current entering her body. Shortly after, the protagonist, through his system, manages to see all the attributes of the contract. He realizes that it is possible to refine essence and return to the true form. With this talent, he can actually extract spiritual energy, and it also means that he will be able to freely obtain pure spiritual energy and advance over time. Han Han says that her talent is really great and suggests testing it immediately. Shui Wei tells them to continue while she goes to get a glass of water. She thinks that this girl is also a divine-level spirit, claiming that this is surprising. While in the kitchen getting water, she hears their conversation in the next room, finding the direction it is taking quite strange. However, when she returns, she realizes that nothing unusual was happening, and she feels embarrassed because she sees that they were just refining materials, placing them inside the forge. After that, the protagonist praises the girl's efficiency and says that he made spiritual energy pills, which after consumption can increase spiritual energy by at least 1%. After returning to her human form, Lingen says that the alchemy fire in her body has not yet been extinguished, so she tells the protagonist to hurry up because she wants his help to put out the fire. But he is not in the mood to do that, and even asks his friend for help. Then Shui Wei tries to push the girl away, but she fails more and more. El Lingen feels comfortable and doesn't want to stop what she is doing. The protagonist tries to stay strong, and even his friend tells him to hold on. Meanwhile, El Lingen takes full advantage of the situation. They spend the whole night in this activity until the next day. The protagonist finds himself exhausted because he had to respond to the call of two girls at the same time. El Lingen says she didn't expect him to be so powerful and claims to have enjoyed it a lot. Even Shui Wei praises him, saying that these exchanges have made his power much purer. Han Han stands up and says he has other tasks to accomplish. He tells El Lingen that he is going to investigate the erosion handworm and search for his squad's missing members. El Lingen asks who is missing, and Shui Wei shows her a photo of Hong Ying. From the photo, Lingen recognizes her and asks if this person frequents the night dance, claiming that she often goes to the city's largest dance hall and sees someone similar there. The protagonist didn't expect to find a clue so quickly and praises her for her efficiency. Then he sprays something on the girls and says they are going to that dance club. Han Han says that this spray is to repel the erosion worms since they are very sensitive to the scent of stare-tater tree flowers. He also says that after smelling the flowers, their emotions become extremely irritable, even insane. After preparing themselves, they head to the club. As soon as they arrive, the protagonist asks if there is a woman named Red Arail there. By the bartender's reaction, he knows who she is. The moment the protagonist says that name everyone present looks at him, and the bartender reveals that this means this gentleman will be paying for everyone's drinks. Immediately, the whole place celebrates. The bartender says that someone came earlier and said that whoever asked about Bi Shuang should be considered responsible for covering all the drink expenses in the venue. Hanan realizes he has fallen into a trap, but he still wants to continue the search. The bartender presents something that the mysterious man left behind. He asked for it to be handed to the protagonist personally, and even though he wanted to see what was inside, he couldn't open it beforehand. So the protagonist opens the box and sees that there is a note inside. The protagonist reads the note, and El Lingen asks what message is written in it. Hanjan says that the reproduction cycle started in February because they are going to the restroom. As soon as he arrives at the location, he tells a man inside to leave because he needs to be alone in there. But while the protagonist is handling his business, the man smells a stench that bothers him and says he hates that smell before attacking. Hands-on waits for the enemy to approach and takes him down with just one blow. With that, the protagonist quickly grabs the insect, identifying it as a Zerg eclipse, and then crushes it. The girls appear asking what happened, and the protagonist summarizes the event. Shui says there are 7 now that 1 has shown up. She wonders where the others are, and also whether Ying's teammates are at high risk of being parasitized. Han suggests, but the protagonist dodges effortlessly, and once again, with a single strike, he takes him down. The insect that was controlling his body flies out, and the protagonist manages to kill it before it escapes. Lingen asks if it was another Zerg eclipse, but before they could respond, Q says the protagonist realizes she is right and says that all these people have one common link, Zahu. With this, he deduces where Yan might have gone. Speaking of Zixiao, he is quite comfortable in his quarters, enjoying the company of a beautiful woman until Yan arrives, kicking down his door, claiming he has business with him. He also says that Xiao killed. With this, Ian declares that he will make Xiao pay for his crimes. Zahu tells Yan that his woman is dead, so he should just hide and lick his wounds instead of coming here to make a scene. Hearing this only makes Yan angrier, and he declares that today he will settle all scores. Z, who claims he is not to blame, says that if Ian wants to blame someone, he should blame himself for not. He also says that Ian is just standing there talking nonsense and should be more worried about the reinforcements on their way. As soon as the men arrive, Joe tells him to retaliate, claiming that Ian is a criminal who attacked a member of the Guardians. After that, the men obey his order and charge forward. Ian prepares to fight and quickly activates his powers. Shortly after, the protagonist arrives, accompanied by the girls, and helps his teammate in battle. This surprises Zhu greatly. Even Yan is taken back, but the protagonist says he is only there to assist, and asks if Yan really thought it was a good idea to attack the leader of the guards alone. Either way, However, they don't care about that and rush into battle. Hands-on kind of already expected this to happen, so he doesn't just stand there and fights back. After taking down all the henchmen, he leaves them lying on the ground. Ian is impressed by how quickly the protagonist defeated them all, but meanwhile, Jay takes the opportunity to flee. However, Han is not going to let him off so easily and stops him from running any further. Without a word, Hanjan strikes his opponent with such force that Xiao falls to the ground dead, and from his body emerges a Zerg eclipse which immediately tries to escape. But the protagonist doesn't let that happen and defeats it, but realizes that this is not the mother Zerg. After that, more henchmen appear and say that the protagonist won't leave that place so easily. Hanjan then realizes he has fallen into a trap. A flashback shows what happened half an hour ago. The mayor's secretary had gone to deliver a document for him to sign, but when she found him, she realized he was under the control of Zerg Eclipse. She was so frightened that she let out a loud scream, a scream that could be heard from far away. Back in the present, the protagonist has a bad feeling. He then tells his group to leave quickly and find the master. Meanwhile, he will help resolve this crisis. His friend tries to convince him not to do this, but he says there's no time for discussion. At the same time, the mayor has just given the order to arrest the protagonist on suspicion of murdering the captain of the defense squad, Zhao. The mayor thinks that he didn't expect the bait to be taken so quickly, but he believes the fish is hooked. Hanan leaves the location, thinking that the best thing to do is to separate from the others so he doesn't involve them as well. But as soon as he steps outside, a senior member says that he killed a member of the organization and must surrender. Due to the protagonist's hesitation, he is forced to kneel. Far from there, a meeting is taking place. Master Le Shuang meets with a friend and asks why he is hiding. His friend asks why he doesn't seem worried. also says that Ian is just standing there talking nonsense and should be more worried about the reinforcements on their way as soon as the men arrive. Joe tells him to retaliate, claiming that Ian is a criminal who attacked a member of the Guardians. After that, the men obey his order and charge forward. Ian prepares to fight and quickly activates his powers. Shortly after, the protagonist arrives accompanied by the girls and helps his teammate in battle. This surprises XU greatly. Even Yan is taken back. But the protagonist says he is only there to assist and asks if Yan really thought it was a good idea to attack the leader of the guards alone. Either way, the protagonist warns the others that this matter is between him and Z, so they should not interfere. However, not bothering with the outcome, he dives straight into action. Hanjan kinda expected things to go down this way and doesn't just stand there. He fights back. After wrapping up all the henchmen, he leaves a pile of them stacked on the ground. Ian is totally impressed with how fast the protagonist took them all down, but meanwhile, Jay sees his chance to scram. However, Hanjan isn't going to let him slip away so easily and blocks his path. Without uttering a word, Hanjan knocks his opponent out with a punch so hard that Xiao Hu crumples to the ground dead. From his body, a Zerg eclipse creature pops out immediately trying to skedaddle, but the protagonist not having any of that and takes it down, realizing it's not the main Zerg. More henchmen show up insisting the protagonist can't just waltz out of there. Hanjan suddenly realizes he's walked straight into a trap. Flashback time. Half an hour earlier, the mayor's secretary had barged in to hand him a document for a signature, but found him under Zerg eclipse control. She freaks out and screams. Back in the present, the protagonist senses impending doom. He tells his crew to bail and find the master quickly while he sticks around to sort this mess out. His buddy tries to talk him out of it, but he insists there's no time for a debate. Simultaneously, the mayor just gave the green light to arrest the protagonist, suspecting he's behind the murder of the captain. The mayor can hardly believe how fast the bait was taken, but he's convinced he's reeling in a big fish. Hanjan ducks out, thinking the smartest move is to break away from the others to keep them safe. But the moment he steps outside, a senior member strides over and says he's accused of killing a member of the organization. And fast forward to the present, the protagonist senses impending doom and quickly urges his group to leave and seek out the master. Meanwhile, he'll stick around to tackle this crisis. A buddy of his tries to talk him out of it, but he insists there's no time for chit-chat. At that moment, the mayor issues an order to arrest the protagonist on suspicion of... The mayor chuckles to himself, surprised how quickly the bait was taken, convinced that they've hooked a big one. Hanan decides that the best course of action is to split from the group to keep them out of harm's way. But no sooner does he step outside than a senior member accuses him of killing one of their own and demands his surrender due to the defense squad. Oh boy. The mayor thought he could throw out a line without catching any fish, but surprise, they took the bait faster than a cat on a laser pointer. Hanan decides to scoot from the scene, thinking it's best to not drag his pals into this mess. But just as he thinks he's in the clear, an elder from the crew pops up and says he offed one of their own, and now he's got to face the music. Our hero's feeling a bit awkward being made to kneel like he's in timeout. Meanwhile, a meeting's going down with Master Le Shuang and his buddy. He curiously asks why his friend is playing hide and seek, and his friend shoots back with, "Why don't you look worried?" Le Shutan replies that there's no reason to worry. The friend says that the descendant the master chose has already been arrested, and the evidence is conclusive. Because of this, he will be publicly executed. Li Shuang asks if he really needs to be so hostile to a friend. The friend says that even if he kills this quantum avatar of his, it won't change anything. He also says that Lo Shang gave each of them an avatar like this, but it seems that Li Shuang has forgotten. Li Shuang says that he doesn't care either because more surprises are coming, until Li Jingguan appears and asks if the master wants him to rescue Hanjan. The master says that he has let problems linger in the organization for too long and hasn't been able to find the mastermind behind everything. If they'd think they can use Xiao to lure his disciple and that his master will do nothing about it, they are very mistaken. Speaking of Han Zhan, he is in prison, completely tied up. The man who arrested him wants to force a confession, but Hannon claims he has committed no crime. Then, due to his refusal, the man tortures him with punches and says that Han Zhenan has only two choices. The first is to join them. He also says that Han doesn't need to know who they are, only that they represent the future. However, the second option is to continue like this, and by the next day he will be publicly executed. With this, Han Han accuses the man of being responsible for allowing the Zerg discovered by Ying to return to the city. The man says that Han Han can see it that way if he wants, but for them the Zergs are not enemies, and as long as they are used correctly, they become extraordinary tools. With that, the protagonist says he has already made his decision and chooses the third option, which is to send this man to hell. Furious, the man says that Han Han is courting death. The next day, all the news outlets announce the public execution of Han Jyn. A subordinate of the mayor says that everything is ready for execution. The mayor asks if they captured the 3 people who escaped yesterday. The subordinate replies that they did not, because there were too many, and it is likely that they are hiding in a village. Then the mayor simply tells him to keep investigating and that he must leave now. In his mind, the mayor wonders why the protagonist is so calm even in the face of death. Speaking of the protagonist, he thinks that his master taught him to let things go and that he would take care of everything, so he wonders what his master is planning. The crowd keeps growing, and they soon realize that the protagonist is the same young man who recently awakened to SS rank, and they don't understand why he is in this position until the mayor steps forward, leaving everyone shocked because he appeared in person. The mayor starts spreading lies about the protagonist precisely to justify his execution due to his position and power. He convinces many in the crowd, thus he already counts this as his victory and orders the execution of the protagonist. The executioner activates the guillotine mechanism, and with great speed the blade descends. Someone activates a type of remote control which prevents the blade from reaching the protagonist's neck. Immediately, the executioner becomes confused, thinking the machine malfunctioned. The mayor becomes furious, saying that whoever is responsible for this will be held accountable, until a woman speaks up, claiming that Han Han is her benefactor, and that she does not agree with his execution. Upon seeing her, the mayor identifies her as the merchant Sting and asks if she is involved in this. After her, others step forward in support of the protagonist. His team members back with the master. His friend says that the disciple has been sent to the guillotine, marking his defeat, but Le Shuang says the game isn't over yet and that it's too soon to draw conclusions. His friend tells him to wait and see, then leaves. On El Shuang's communicator, someone reports that his friend left too quickly and they couldn't track him. Precisely, the master asks Shang if he knows anything, but Shang denies it, saying that if he did, he wouldn't be helping with his student. Moreover, he says that the organization behind this has found a source of reports, and it is called Dawn. At the protagonist's core, people around him wonder how anyone dares to defy a penal colony, and if merchants have intervened, it's no simple matter. Sting says that people have been blinded by the mayor and claims that Han Yan is not a prisoner, but a true servant of the people. Then she points to a giant screen where footage of the protagonist's achievements is displayed, from his academy evaluations to his actions and missions. This makes the protagonist appear quite patriotic, and Sting asks if the man who wholeheartedly helps the city is really a traitor. But before she can continue, the man who previously captured H appears and orders everyone to be silent. Ian seems to recognize this man. Meanwhile, the executioner states that guillotining Han Han is his mission and that no one can interfere. Since the guillotine didn't work, he uses his powers and summons a giant flaming hand, attempting to strike the protagonist. Next, however, he senses that something is wrong and moments later is caught off guard, getting hit directly without even seeing where it came from. Even the people around wonder what just happened. Sting, however, notices something nearby and catches a glimpse of Master Li. The mayor, already furious, tells Han Han that no one will save him and personally charges at him. The protagonist, in turn, stands up, realizing that his master is working in his favor. Even so, the mayor does not give up on attacking him, so Hannon simply dodges his strikes, irritating the mayor even more. However, the protagonist doesn't just evade, he also counterattacks. Soon he lands a precise strike on his opponent, hurling him to the ground with such force that he is knocked out from the impact, and from the mayor's head emerges a mind-controlling Zerg. The protagonist doesn't let the insect escape, and just like the others, he crushes it. The people around are caught off guard, as they didn't expect to see this. Hands-on states that the mayor was harboring a parasitic Zerg, which confuses and distorts the truth, and says that even if they don't believe him, his only goal is to protect the city. This shifts public opinion in favor of the protagonist as they realize something was indeed suspicious about the whole situation. Shortly after, Li Shuang appears and asks his student how it felt to have a near-death experience. Hanjan says it was gratifying to let his master clean up the mess, but that if there's a next time, he'd rather be the one giving orders. The master says that his student did well, and now that the mother Zerg is dead and the others have been found, it proves that the protagonist did an excellent job. Li Shuang says it's unfortunate that he was too persistent before and couldn't find any leads about Dawn. The protagonist asks what that is. He explains that it is a mysterious organization that has infiltrated the city's protectors and that they have yet to uncover any significant information. Han didn't know that an organization had infiltrated them until this team arrives, saying they found Bei Shuang's body. Though saddened, the protagonist asks where Ian states that a total of 100 people died in this incident. Her body and the others are frozen together, ready for a sea burial at the funeral. The master and the entire group pay their respects. With this, the protagonist laments not being able to protect Bei Shuang. Speaking of her, her body begins to react strangely until the color of her skin changes in appearance, and from within her some kind of evil aura emerges. Some time has passed, and it is now autumn. During a meeting, the master asks the protagonist if he and his group intend to reach level 3 after the corrosive worm incident. He responds that they do, and mentions that Ling Zhen has also reached level 3, matching the rest of the group. Not only her, but Si Wei has also progressed significantly. The merchant girl is also present and suggests that the protagonist contract her, but he says he only contracts spirits with divinity that can help him. She says that's fine and hopes to awaken divine power someday. The master says that after level 3, there is nothing in the rear cities worth training for and asks if Han has any plans. He replies that he wants to become stronger, relying on himself to carve a path through this insect apocalypse. In that case, the master says he will contact Wine, and a plane will take him to the front lines for training, but he warns that he must go alone because spirits cultivate differently from contracted ones, and the master has better plans for them. Even knowing that the First War Zone is engaged in the last large-scale battle against the Zergs before the new year, the protagonist agrees to go there for training. In the Great Exia on the frontline battlefield, the war against the enemies is intense. Humans are using heavy weaponry to try and combat them. Countless wounded are being transported there. Zhang asks why Shia has returned. He responds that his allied captain lost 3 people, and he received them and came back. So Zhang shouldn't question it. But Zhang says that's nonsense because a standard captain only has 5 people. And since he lost 3, he asks if he couldn't wait for reinforcements. He also says that if only 2 people are missing and the captain is still waiting for reinforcements, he should be ashamed. However, Xia says he is not like them and came here with a mission, an elite mission. Amid their argument, a helicopter appears, and from inside it, the protagonist steps out. He introduces himself as Han John, claiming to be the new recruit. Shia asks the protagonist where his spirit is. He replies that it stayed at home. Like Shia, Ye says this is a war zone and that he is not here to die, so he shouldn't joke like that. Zhang says that judging by the protagonist's clothing, he is not from the camp, meaning he must be a young master from the city. This only irritates Shia Ye, who claims that these young masters only bring trouble, so he suggests that Zhang take this young master into his team. But John tells Shia Ye that it's his turn to receive recruits, so he can't go back on his word. Soa gives in and tells the protagonist to follow him so he can introduce him to the other teammates. Xia formally introduces himself and says that according to regulations, the protagonist will be incorporated into his team. Then he introduces the teammates Kai Xiang and Exa Sedin. The girl seems delighted and immediately takes advantage of having a newcomer in the group, asking him to help her take off her coat. The protagonist agrees to help without hesitation. She thanks him for his help, and he says it was nothing. Then the girl asks why the protagonist is alone, saying she thinks he could have at least brought his contracted spirit with him. Instead, the protagonist says he brought some gifts for everyone in the group, and from his magic ring takes out some treasures he had previously collected, such as high-level armor. The two are thrilled with this and conclude that the protagonist is a great addition to the team, except for the captain who claims he doesn't need armor. He sees that the protagonist is a young master who not only has a storage ring, but also 6-level armor, generously distributing it. Then the captain says he will go pick up the mission supplies and tells the group to go ahead. Meanwhile, one of them reveals that the captain is a me-top pilot who lost his spirit in battle but found an opportunity for a career in war. The girl says that what he despises most are those incompetent figures, but she quickly realizes she said too much. The captain tells them to stop chatting and get ready for the mission. Han asks what their mission is. The captain says it is called Blue Mission Extinction. He also says the protagonist must have heard about the Isao Snake Clan. The reproduction rate of this clan is extremely fast, with their battlefield reinforcement speed being 10,000 times greater than that of humans. Although they have already increased the casualty rate, it is still not enough to compensate for the explosive reinforcements of the Snake Clan. This is also why, for over a month, the First War Zone and the Snake Clan L-Lights have been at a stalemate on the front lines. However, more than a month ago, the remorseful return requested by White King, the chief of the First War Zone, broke this balance. Commander, we led the assault, his fist splitting. The Aegis directly shattered the reinforcement and empowerment lines of the Snake Clan, raising the casualty ratio to a staggering 100,000 to 1. Why King's sudden attack caught the enemy clan off guard, but soon 4 8th level serpent emperors surrounded him. Both sides fought fiercely. The latest mission directive was issued by the Second War Zone through divination. They used contracted spirits to precisely locate the positions of these snake nest pockets. The fastest and closest teams in each area are responsible for destroying the snake nests. After walking for some time toward the target, the protagonist spots a sign of the enemy, but he doesn't know exactly what it is. Shia explains that it is a snake skin. Every time one undergoes a rank promotion, it sheds its skin. Yan says this is not good at all, because these cunning snakes keep their eggs inside it. The captain states that the skin is over 6,000 meters long, containing millions of eggs. This must be the mission's target, precisely the snake nest. However, upon hearing some eggs hatching, the group becomes alarmed. Several hatchlings are about to be born. Not only that, but the sound of the eggs breaking is agonizing. The sonic glass strikes the captain, who even inside his mecha is sent flying, but the protagonist doesn't leave him in distress and rushes toward him to rescue him. However, this doesn't stop the rest of the group from worrying. Shia tells the protagonist to go complete the mission and that he doesn't need to be saved, but Han Johan won't let him fall. He grabs the mecha despite its immense weight and hurls it to the top of the cliff. The captain returns from where he had fallen and is astonished by the protagonist's strength. The others are concerned as only the captain returned. Shia wonders how Hanjan possesses such strength. One of the team members says the fall is very high, making it impossible for the protagonist to have survived. Shia somewhat agrees with this and blames himself for not being the one who died instead. However, moments later, Hanj turns, saying that he's not dead yet, but could use a little help getting back up. His teammates are overjoyed to see him, saying that he scared them with all this. Shia scolds him, saying that he must not sacrifice himself, and emphasizing that the main objective is to complete the mission no matter what. Now that everything is clear, they continue. However, the protagonist notices that several hatchlings have been born and are scattered all over the path. Not only that, but they are about to attack. The captain alerts everyone of the danger, but this only makes the group even more anxious. The snakes charge forward, full of killing intent. Shia takes the lead, saying he will buy time for his team to act. The girl points out that there are too many snakes and that the captain won't be able to escape, so Hanjan decides to take action. He uses the power of his ring, which emits a force field around him. The snakes seem to react to it. The captain notices this as they stop attacking and remain almost completely paralyzed. Shia doesn't understand how this is possible, but the protagonist tells him not to stand there and to burn them as quickly as possible without wasting any more time. He does exactly that, unleashing flames upon them. All the fire spreads on a massive scale, visible from a great distance. With the situation now under control, the protagonist explains that he used one of his devices to intimidate the snakes, which is why they were paralyzed. Then, the captain says he has eliminated them all, but still wants to understand the protagonist's abilities. The snakes in the end were completely charred, and Hanjan simply states that he is just a level 3 spiritual contract master. Shah doesn't believe this, but he soon realizes there's no time for conversation as an alarm suddenly appears on his onboard computer. He announces that the mission is not over yet and that they have a new target. The Snake Clan has sent reinforcements, and if these snakes reach their objective, they will be in serious trouble. Therefore, they must stop them before that happens. Choya has already seen that the protagonist is strong and has the ability to contain the snakes, so he asks what he thinks should be done. Hanjan says he is not sure if they can eliminate them all, but if they don't run now, they will definitely be defeated. Not far from there, the 5th-ranked Isagi snake is guarding an important point and preparing to act. Soon the group spots the snake in the distance. The protagonist tells them not to stand still, as they must retreat. They follow his lead as they have no other choice. Shia tells them to go ahead while he stays behind to delay the enemy. As the group runs, he remains behind fighting the giant serpent. However, the protagonist doesn't like this because he sees that his captain is literally in the snake's mouth. Then it crushes his mecha, and Shia is barely saved from being devoured. He falls from the mecha, plummeting toward the ground. The group is worried about him, but they soon become the snake's next target. However, a magical shield protects them for a brief moment. They don't understand what happened, but then they realize it is due to the armor the protagonist gifted them earlier. The snake then attacks with venom, which dissolves the magical shield. Not only that, but it hits the two, who practically melt away. Hanzan watches. This happened right before his eyes and is shocked, but he has no time to grieve, as the serpent now has him as its next target. What it didn't expect was for the protagonist to become furious, as seeing his companions die like that made him unleash his full power. Han dodges its attack and then immediately prepares his magic. He summons a protective wind barrier. The serpent, however, still has tricks up its sleeve, and this time it launches a projectile, which upon hitting the protagonist's wind barrier destabilizes him, causing him to fall. The impact of this fall is immense, and he admits that he underestimated his enemy's strength without giving him a chance to recover the serpent attacks again, but from above it is suddenly struck. A sword lands right on the snake's head, incapacitating it. Han doesn't see where it came from and is surprised by the attack. Then a woman approaches and reveals herself as the one responsible. The protagonist thanks her since a lady just saved him. Her name is Gong Yang Jyn, an experienced warrior. She says that the protagonist is handsome and just her type, but she doesn't want to be called senior. She says she is from the city of extreme evil, the Exile Island, which he must have heard of. The protagonist knows that the place got its name because its inhabitants are not accepted in any country, forming a large concentration of exiles. Their evil lies in acting according to their whims without caring for others' lives, achieving what they want by any means necessary. Han analyzes Gong Yang Jyn and realizes that she is an 8th-rank Valky. She approaches and asks more about the protagonist's powers. Gong Yang Jyn says that through the sound he made, she could feel every cell in her body amplify, almost as if she could punch the Emperor Snake and kill it in a single blow. That's why she wants to take the protagonist as her exclusive combat support. However, Han asks for a moment. Gong Yang Jyn asks if he in Air Rank 3 intends to resist. The protagonist says that his mission is not yet over, so he cannot leave. But Gong Yang Jyn suggests taking him by force. However, he states that if that's the case, he would rather die. Gong Yang Jyn expected something like this from him and asks what he wants in return for willingly going with her. Han thinks it's best to take advantage of this situation and maybe use her to complete his mission, so he says he agrees to go as long as she works with him to defeat the Zerg Isagi on the battlefield. With that, Gong Yang Jyn says she imagined he would ask for something else, but if that's all, they have a deal. The protagonist shows that he has a map and says that it marks 3 locations of the snakes, pointing out where they should act. Cooperating with Dax's forces is his final decision. Gong Yang Jyn says she has no problem with that, but in a moment of distraction, she feels something strange coming from her back. She says that the nightmare in her wound is starting to flare up. The protagonist asks what is happening, and she simply tells him to run. Gong Yang Jyn starts behaving as if she has lost control of her actions. Soon the protagonist notices a demonic aura surrounding her. He then uses his magic harp to try to restrain her. Its magical properties begin to take effect, dispersing the demonic aura from Gong Yang Jyn until in an instant she becomes purified. Then she asks how the protagonist did that. He replies that he used kinks and powder, which has recovery and suppression properties, but he asks how she ended up in that state. Gong Yang Jyn says she was wounded by an Nth Order Emperor insect. Although she managed to escape alive, she was left with hidden injuries in her body. The Ninth Order Emperor insect is called Nightmare. The aura it leaves behind can take control of her body and put her in a death-like state. Han Han asks if he can see the wound, and Gong Yang Jyn calls him bold for trying to take advantage of the situation. She says that after this, she will gouge his eyes out. The protagonist simply states that the wound has not healed yet, but it can be treated. Gong Yang Jyn realizes that Han Han actually touched her directly. Not only that, but the protagonist does even more. He uses his powers to heal her. Gong Yang Jyn feels some discomfort, but it's due to the wound being healed. The protagonist says that kinks and powder has a suppressive effect, but cannot completely dispel the curse. After that, Gong Yang Jyn says that he is truly impressive and asks if he currently has 2 contracted spirits. Han Han simply continues the procedure and performs the magic of the creation of living beings. This now makes Gong Yang Jyn feel extremely comfortable. Then the protagonist says he is done and that her wound is now completely healed. She asks if he can do it again because she really enjoyed the sensation. Han Han tells her that she just saw him use his talent to devour the flesh and blood of billions of Zerg to obtain psychic power, and if she wants him to use it again now, she will need to provide a lot more flesh and blood, so she asks if an Isagi snake is enough. Then the two set off toward their objective, which fortunately does not seem too far away. A drone flies over enemy territory, and the operator reports that a large number of snakes are on the move. The district leaders in the control room do not like hearing this and start considering how to respond. Li Jingguan says they are moving fast. Therefore, a fighter strong enough must be sent to face them on the front lines. Then he orders them to contact the 8th Combat Force, as they are the most suitable for this mission. Back with the protagonist, he thanks Ji Jin for her help. She says it's fine and is already eager to get into action, but Han Jan says he will go first and charges toward the enemies. Yang Jyn thinks the protagonist is quite the adventurer, but with her around, he will do just fine. Han Jan in turn engages in hand-to-hand combat with the serpents and shows no fear of danger. His battle is monitored by the control center through the drone feed. This makes them question why Han Jan is acting alone. Speaking of the protagonist, he originally wanted to train the 8th Fist of Urgency, but with so many snakes, he cannot kill them all until a moment comes when he is completely surrounded and finds himself with no escape. Rad then Ginjin realizes it is time to act like a thunderbolt. She makes her entrance, arriving triumphantly on the battlefield. Her fighting spirit is ignited, and with just one swing of her sword, she slashes through multiple serpents. The protagonist thanks her for the help, but says he can still fight. This makes Yang Jyn think he is truly reckless. Han Jan opens the 3rd gate of power, becoming even stronger, and now wants to unleash all that energy in battle. As he attacks the serpents, a massive surge of energy is released, even surprising a warrior like Yang Jyn. She refuses to be left behind. In the control center, they wonder who this woman is. The one helping Han Jan, Li Jinan, knows she is from the exiled city, an 8th level warrior, and explains in detail the information he has on her. Shortly after, the battlefield becomes much quieter as Gan Jin and Han Jan have completely cleared it. The protagonist says that with so many snake corpses, he can absorb them and use the vitality of creation again. So he does, invoking his magic, and tells the woman to prepare because he will perform the treatment again. Gong Yang Jyn still feels the malignant aura within her, but the protagonist plans to put an end to it soon. He healed the wound, but he has not yet expelled the evil that remained inside her. Thus, he intends to find a way to do so. Gong Jin tells him to just remove the aura without worrying about any consequences. Now that he has her approval, the protagonist decides to take action. Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye-bye.